This week's Torah portion, Noah, contains the famous story of the building of the ark and the flood and repopulating the earth. It also includes the less famous story of the Tower of Babel, that tower in which the people of that community wanted to build a skyscraper to reach God. And God came down and confounded their efforts by making them speak different languages so that they could no longer communicate with one another, and thus spread people around the known world at the time. These stories, along with last week's portion in Genesis, consist of the first 11 chapters of the book of Genesis, and is a unit in and of itself that is entirely different from the rest of the Torah. So chapter 12 of Genesis begins the story of Abraham and Sarah, and that starts the process of the story that we are familiar with, of what the Torah is about, namely the history of us as the Jewish people and the nature of our covenanted relationship with God. But how do we make sense of the first 11 chapters, which are essentially mythological in nature, as opposed to more historical or more law or instruction centered, what we think the Torah is all about? And it's really hard for me to come to grips with this myth, because the talking snake in the Garden of Eden, this building of the ark, and the Tower of Babel, these are stories that really we question whether they really existed or not. Is it true history? And if it didn't exist, what is the story doing here? And how do we understand religiously, philosophically, the place of these 11 chapters in the story of our people? And so I think the lesson we need to learn from the Torah is that the Torah is presented in a variety of formats so that no matter who we are and what kind of experience moves us, we can find that kind of connection within the Torah itself. Some of us are book learners and appreciate understanding what the laws of the Torah are and understand studying the intricacies of that law. Some of us are more historical in nature and like to see our place within the chain of Jewish history. And some of us really connect to the mythological stories and like to learn about what these stories say about the origins of certain things in the world around us and how we make sense of them Jewishly. And so altogether, the Torah becomes this bigger unit of not just literally meaning instruction, as the Hebrew word says, but more generally, everything Jewish about who we are as a people is contained in the story of the Torah. So, as we read this story that might be more fitting for children this week, and certainly many children's stories have been written based on Noah and the ark, let us understand and appreciate the greater context from where this story comes so that we can better appreciate our place in the story of the Jewish people. Shabbat Shalom.